The leading five-member alliance of the developing world, Brics, may have to scout for a new name. 6 new members are set to join the club starting January 1st, 2024. At the Brics Summit on August 24th in Johannesburg, member nations Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa decided to include 6 new members to the group. The objective of the expansion was to widen the alliance with powerful developing economies, thereby strengthening the voice of the developing world in the global arena. The new entries include Argentina, Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates. After the expansion, Brics representation of the world's population will rise to about 50% from the earlier 40%. The new alliance may boost prospects of intra-Brics trade in local currencies. The new members include the world's biggest oil-producing countries, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Iran. Meanwhile, India is the world's third largest importer of crude oil. Against this backdrop, as China is seen to be the driving force behind the expansion, and given India's tense ties with the country, how will the expansion affect India?
The new entrants are not countries which are hostile to India, and therefore we should not have any major reservations about this. With regard to China being the main driver, so I think that also I would say we should not ascribe this to China doing something very devious, to the extent that BRICS provides a platform for expanded cooperation with some of the existing and some of the new members. That's a plus for India. What we are able to do is maybe swap lines amongst one another. What we are able to do is to have trade with each other using local currencies. But this is already being done, BRICS or no BRICS. The issue of having an alternate currency system is rather unlikely, because international currencies like the US dollar are international currencies because they are freely convertible. They are there is no capital controls on the transfer of money. Until we get to that point, I'm afraid that a BRICS currency cannot serve as an alternative, international currency. So that should be fairly clear. Yes, they can make a contribution with regard to development finance, because we have the BRICS Development Bank. And if you have a country like Saudi Arabia or the UAE coming in, that at least potentially could expand the resources that are available to the development bank. And, that obviously can also be accessed by India for its own developmental projects.
Look, India has had relations with every one of those 6 countries which have been invited. In fact, if I may point out to you, in terms of pure diplomacy, we started having diplomatic relations with almost all of them before China started having relations with them. Of course, things have changed. The reality of China is known to all of us. And therefore, we have to adjust to this particular reality. But these are countries with whom we have friendly relations. We have growing trade ties. The way I look at it is, there was a necessity it was a kind of imperative that was coming about. Our being there is a very important sign, and the countries will also continue to look to India for a kind of guidance. One of the things that we will have to be mindful is how the rest of the global South looks at this coming together of the largest countries in the global South. In terms of the way geopolitics plays out at the UN and in multilateral fora, the G7 possibility has the possibility of, if I may say so, putting a bit of a wedge between us and the global South. We'll have to play this game, let me say, carefully, with due calibration, and letting all others know that we are solidly members of the global South and with everyone in the global South community, including that large conglomeration called the Group of 77.
The news has also raised fresh debates about whether the new grouping would now emerge as an outright rival to the West, and moreover as a counterblock to the G7. The G7 comprises the world's most advanced economies, namely the US, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the UK. The US, which is the strongest G7 economy, emerged as India's biggest trading partner in FY23. International Monetary Fund data that analyzes GDP based on purchasing power of different currencies reveals that while the contribution of BRICS nations to global GDP has seen a rise between 1982 and 2022, the share of the G7 has steadily declined. Going ahead, what will be the implications of the expansion for industry, global trade, and the emergence of a larger economic bloc that could perhaps become a counter to the G7?
The BRICS has been in existence for some time, and with the exception of the development bank, I have not seen any substantive economic cooperation at the BRICS level. Now, with the addition of some of the new members, will this change? That remains to be seen. And let us not look at the G7 and the BRICS as two sort of competing blocs, for the simple reason that the G7 has countries which have a certain ideological affinity. And they have a basic convergence of views with regard to geopolitics. And also, of course, these are major market economies. They are the major markets. They have the financial markets. Now, if you compare that to the BRICS, I think we still have a long way to go. And we already know that there are, different perspectives, different interests that countries of the BRICS have. The kind of, coherence which the G7 has, that coherence will probably be, achieved, if ever, after a long time. And long time of close cooperation. So I do not see that equivalence.
I don't want to see this as any kind of counter, but I certainly want to see it as larger countries in the global south coming together collaboratively to see what can be done. Now, this is, of course, a matter of whatever you may say, developing your own currency strengths, seeing what you can do in terms of trade, what can you do in terms of investments, etc. But let us also be cognizant of things as they currently stand. The United States, Japan, Canada, and the European Union together actually account for more than 50% of global GDP, no matter the very small way in which we do the totaling that the BRICS seems to go ahead. Also, they continue to be the large purveyors of both technology and investable funds. No matter what we talk about China, that isn't their situation as of now. Therefore, in the near and foreseeable future, I frankly think that the importance of engaging with the G7 countries, the larger economies in the world, and those with technological and financial heft will remain important and is something that all countries, I believe, in the BRICS, and I want to stress here, including China, would have an interest in carrying on.
India need not be overtly worried about China's role in the expansion, since the new entrants are friendly countries. However, given its significant ties with both G7 and the Global South, India will want to ensure that the expansion is viewed in the correct context, that it is another sign of India's commitment to a multipolar world.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
He's moving from employee to employer. Business Standard.